These are the 8 richest families that own Wisconsin, and the things they control are hiding in plain sight. We're talking a family that owns the orange trucks hauling your furniture, a dynasty that turned cardboard boxes into a $15 billion fortune, and at number 1, we have a family who may have built almost everything in your bathroom. Let's get into the countdown. Number 8, the Zitlow family. Here's a quick question for you. At what point does a gas station stop being a gas station? Because Quick Trip does not simply buy items from somebody else on wholesale and place them under fluorescent lights. The Zitlow family controls an operation that makes the food, bottles the drinks, produces the packaging, loads the trucks, and delivers the whole lot to its own stores. It is less like a convenience store chain and more like a small country with fuel pumps. The story began in 1965 with one store in Eau Claire. Over the decades, the business moved deeper into the Zitlow family's control and grew into more than 900 locations across the Midwest, supported by over 38,000 employees. Today, it is still privately held and family-owned, but the hidden machinery behind the red sign is the real story. Quick Trip operates its own bakery, dairy, kitchens, food safety laboratory, distribution center, transportation company, bottle-making facility, and even a health clinic. Around 80% of what appears in its stores under the Quick Trip name is made, shipped, and sold inside the company's own system. And the scale is ridiculous. The bakery can push out more than 225 loaves of bread every minute. The dairy bottles over 80,000 gallons of milk a day, much of it sourced from farms close to La Crosse. Its kitchens can make around 40,000 pizzas in a single day. Think about that the next time you stop for fuel and casually grab dinner. You are not shopping at a random roadside store. You are stepping into the final few feet of a family-controlled food and logistics network. The Zitlows are famously private, so there is no reliable public figure for their fortune. Maybe that is the point. They just need you to stop for gas and leave with a bag twice as full as planned. The Zitlows own the place where the Wisconsin road trip stops, but our next family owns a huge share of the orange trucks you see while driving there. Number 7. The Schneider family. In 1935, Al Schneider sold the family car to buy one truck. That is either a visionary business decision or a spectacular way to make yourself very unpopular at home. Fortunately for Al, it worked. That single vehicle became Schneider, the Green Bay transportation giant whose bright orange trucks now move freight across North America. Al saw the American road system expanding and realized that all those new highways would eventually need somebody to move the country's products across them. His son Don followed him into the business, and the family spent decades turning one truck into a national network. Schneider now has thousands of trucks, tens of thousands of employees and vehicles collectively traveling millions of miles every day. But here's where this becomes a dynasty story rather than a normal corporate biography. Schneider went public in 2017. Regular investors can buy the stock. The family still made absolutely sure those investors could never casually take the steering wheel. The company has 2 classes of shares. Public Class B shares receive 1 vote each. The family's Class A shares receive 10. Through family trusts, the Schneiders beneficially own about 69% of the total stock but control roughly 94% of the voting power. 94%. So yes, Schneider is technically a public company, but in practical terms, Wall Street is sitting in the passenger seat while the family keeps both hands on the wheel. And honestly, you have to respect the architecture of that. Plenty of founders take a company public, cash out, and slowly watch control drift away. The Schneiders invited outsiders to invest while building a legal structure that makes the family's grip incredibly difficult to break. You can own part of the truck. You are not choosing the route. Al gave up the family's personal transportation to enter commercial transportation. 90 years later, Schneider has more than 12,000 trucks, collectively circling the planet hundreds of times in an ordinary day. Would you have sold your only car for one truck in 1935? Most people would not. That is why most people do not end up with a voting trust controlling one of America's largest freight companies. The Schneiders built the network that moves America's belongings. The next family became billionaires by making the furniture inside those boxes. Number 6. The Wanek family. Ron Wanek sold his house to start a furniture factory. Just sit with that decision for a second. The man gambled the roof over his own family's head because he believed he could eventually make the beds, sofas, and dining tables that would go under everybody else's. Ron grew up poor on a dairy farm in Minnesota, where furniture making was something his grandfather and great-uncle did as a hobby. In 1970, he helped launch Arcadia Furniture in the tiny Wisconsin city of Arcadia with a loan from his father and money from selling his home. The factory began with just 35 employees and made cabinets and occasional tables. 6 years later, Ron and a group of investors bought a small furniture sales company called Ashley. He eventually bought out the other investors, merged the manufacturing and sales sides, and brought the whole operation under family control. And the family part was not decorative. Ron's son Todd officially joined the business as employee number 158. He worked in production and shipping, then spent years managing the company's operation in Taiwan. He became CEO in 2002, while Ron remained chairman. Todd's son Cameron later joined too. That is 3 generations actually working inside the machine, not just appearing at a family foundation dinner once a year. Speaking of 3 generations rolling up their sleeves inside the family machine, there's a program someone on our team has been curious about called the Billionaire Brain Wave. It's a simple 7-minute audio built around theta brainwave research, the deep focus brain state linked to where big creative ideas come from. You put on headphones once a day, usually with your morning coffee, and that's the whole routine. It's a one-time $39, it comes with bonus guides on money habits and investing basics, and there's a 90-day money-back guarantee. So testing it costs you nothing if it's not for you. If you're watching on your TV, pause and scan the QR code on screen with your phone camera, or tap the first link in the description. Now, back to the sheer scale that hands-on approach created. Today, Ashley is one of the largest furniture manufacturers and retailers in the world, doing an estimated $11 billion in annual revenue and selling across more than 150 countries. Forbes estimates the family owns around 90% of a company valued at roughly $10.9 billion. Ron and Todd's individual fortunes add up to well over $10 billion. But the origin still feels more important than the final number. Selling your home to start a furniture plant sounds borderline reckless when you hear it at the beginning. Once the company becomes global, people rename the exact same behavior vision. That is one of the strange rules of business history. If the gamble fails, everyone says the warning signs were obvious. If it works, everybody claims the founder could see the future. So what would you call it? Confidence, desperation, or just the correct amount of madness? The Waneks fill the trucks. Our next family got rich selling the labels, tape, gloves, boxes, and bubble wrap wrapped around almost everything those trucks carry. Number 5. The Uylin family. One of the most powerful private fortunes in America began with a device for measuring cardboard boxes. Not oil, not railroads, not banking, a carton sizer. In 1980, Dick and Liz Uylin started Uline in their basement after spotting a simple gap in the market. Businesses needed shipping supplies quickly, and the existing options were not good enough. Their first product was the H101 carton sizer, which sounds like the least glamorous object ever assigned a product code. The company still sells it today. From there, Uline grew into a distribution empire headquartered in Pleasant Prairie. It now sells more than 43,000 products, employs around 9,000 people, and generates an estimated $8.1 billion a year. Its catalog runs for more than 900 pages. A 900-page catalog. In the internet age, that is not a catalog anymore. That is a commercial phone book for every object a warehouse manager might suddenly realize exists. Need boxes, shelving, safety cones, labels, or a suspiciously specific container nobody knew how to name? Somehow, Uline has 12 versions and can probably deliver them tomorrow. And this is unquestionably a family operation. Dick serves as CEO. Liz is president. Their children and relatives hold senior roles across merchandising, planning, and management. The family photograph on Uline's own history page basically looks like the executive chart. Forbes estimates Dick and Liz are each worth about $7.7 billion, putting their combined fortune around $15 billion. They have also used that wealth to become 2 of the most consequential political donors in the United States, contributing hundreds of millions of dollars over the years. Whatever you think of their politics, that is what private company control can buy. No quarterly shareholder revolt, no activist investor demanding silence, and no board of strangers telling the owners where their money can go. The funniest part is still the product. This enormous economic and political machine rests on boxes, tape, and warehouse supplies. It is proof that the boring businesses are often the dangerous ones. Nobody notices them becoming essential until nearly every other company depends on them. Uline helps businesses pack almost anything. Our next family sells you practically everything required to build the room where those boxes eventually get opened. Number 4. The Menard family. John Menard Jr. was building pole barns to pay his way through college before Home Depot even existed. By the time he graduated in 1963, IBM offered him a job. That was the safe road. Respected company, dependable career, nice clean office. Menard turned it down because his construction business was already too busy. That choice turned a Wisconsin farm kid into one of the richest retailers in America. Menard grew up near Eau Claire as the oldest of 8 children. He started his construction operation in 1958, then moved into selling building materials because supplying contractors and homeowners could scale far beyond doing one construction job at a time. Those stores became Menards, the private home improvement chain with more than 340 locations and around $13 billion in annual sales. Forbes currently estimates John Menard's fortune at roughly $16 billion. Yet the culture around the company is almost aggressively unglamorous. Menard developed a reputation for watching costs with microscopic attention. Even senior executives have reportedly had to punch a time clock in the morning. Imagine running a multi-billion-dollar division, making decisions involving hundreds of stores and still hearing the little click that says, "Yes, the boss knows exactly when you arrived." That obsession with control is a major reason the company remains private. Home Depot and Lowe's are bigger nationally. Menards dominates the Midwest, where the stores feel like a hardware chain swallowed a supermarket. Then there is racing. John Menard poured money into motorsports for decades, sponsoring cars and chasing an Indianapolis 500 victory. His son Paul became a NASCAR driver, turning the family name into one of the most recognizable sponsor logos in American racing. In 2019, after nearly 40 years of trying, a Menards-backed car finally won the Indy 500. There is something extremely on-brand about that persistence. The same man who would monitor costs down to the minute was willing to fund racing season after racing season until the trophy finally arrived. So which side built the fortune? The willingness to reject IBM, the habit of counting every dollar, or the stubbornness to keep showing up for 40 years? Probably all three. Menards sells roofing materials to ordinary homeowners. The next family became even richer by selling those materials directly to the professionals installing them. Number 3. The Hendricks family. Diane Hendricks did not become one of America's richest women by inventing a glamorous product. She got there because, as her late husband Ken understood very clearly, every building eventually needs a roof. In 1982, America was in a nasty economic slowdown. Ken and Diane Hendricks saw 3 struggling building supply centers available for purchase and decided that was the perfect moment to take a risk. They founded ABC Supply in Beloit with one basic idea: contractors should be treated like serious professionals instead of guys arriving at a warehouse to beg somebody to find the shingles. The strategy worked. ABC expanded into North America's largest wholesale distributor of roofing and other building products, with more than 1,000 locations, over 20,000 employees, and roughly $20 billion in annual revenue. Then the story took a brutal turn. Ken died in 2007 after a fall at a construction site. Diane became chair and took responsibility for an empire the two of them had built together. A lot of family businesses lose momentum when the founding partnership disappears. ABC did the opposite. Under Diane, the company completed the 2 largest acquisitions in its history, buying Bradco in 2010 and L&W Supply in 2016. Forbes now estimates ABC Supply is worth about $21 billion and says the Hendricks family owns 100% through its holding company. Diane's son, Brent Fox, helps lead the broader family group, which stretches into manufacturing, real estate, logistics, recycling, and other businesses. Diane herself is worth around $21.7 billion, making her the richest self-made woman in America. But the most Wisconsin part of this story is what happened after the money arrived. She did not abandon Beloit for some anonymous oceanfront compound. She began buying and redeveloping struggling properties around the city. Old buildings, industrial spaces, hotels, and entire blocks that other investors had largely written off. Now, that raises an interesting question. When a billionaire renovates a forgotten building, that can be community investment. When the same billionaire owns enough buildings, businesses, and land, is it still revitalization, or has one family effectively become part of the city's operating system? Maybe it can be both. The Hendricks family built the roof over your head. The next one made a far larger fortune from nearly everything you spray, wipe, seal, or store underneath it. Number 2. The Johnson family. The richest family in this entire video made $39 billion from the stuff under your kitchen sink. Windex, Raid, Glade, Pledge, Off, Ziploc, scrubbing bubbles. Ordinary products people toss into shopping carts without thinking twice, all feeding one of the largest private family fortunes in America. The empire began in Racine in 1886, when Samuel Curtis Johnson bought a parquet flooring business. Customers needed a way to care for those floors, so the company developed a prepared wax. The side product slowly became more important than the original business, and the Johnson family followed the opportunity from floors into cleaning, storage, air care, pest control, and household products used around the world. 5 generations have now led SC Johnson. The current chairman and CEO, Fisk Johnson, is the founder's great-great-grandson. The company remains privately held, produces an estimated $13 billion in annual revenue, and openly says that staying private lets the family think about the next generation instead of the next quarter. That sounds like corporate copy until you look at the buildings. Third-generation leader H.F. Johnson Jr. hired Frank Lloyd Wright to design the company's administration building in Racine. Wright later designed the research tower and the Johnson family home, Wingspread, a sprawling prairie-style house built around a giant central living space. And because this is Frank Lloyd Wright, the house famously leaked. According to family lore, water once dripped onto H.F. Johnson's head during a dinner party. He called Wright to complain, and the architect's basic response was, "Move your chair." Imagine being rich enough to hire America's most famous architect and still losing an argument with your own roof. But that relationship produced one of the most remarkable corporate campuses in the country. The administration building has miles of glass tubing and columns resembling giant lily pads. Wingspread later became a major conference center. This is what makes the Johnsons different. The fortune is massive, but the family also shaped the physical and cultural identity of Racine. Products in millions of homes funded architecture that people now travel to Wisconsin just to see. And yes, by pure net worth, the Johnsons are number 1. They are richer than the family coming next. No trick, no fuzzy math. But our final family has a stranger and more complete claim on Wisconsin. The Johnsons built brands and landmarks. The Kohlers built the products, the factory, the workers' residence, the resort, the golf courses, and the village carrying their name. Number 1. The Kohler family. Go into your bathroom and look around. The sink might be Kohler. The faucet might be Kohler. The toilet, bathtub, shower fixtures, tile, mirror, lighting, and cabinetry could all come from the same company. And if you leave that bathroom, drive to the village of Kohler, check into the family's luxury resort, and play a course that hosted the Ryder Cup, you still have not really left their world. This empire started in 1873 during a financial panic, when Austrian immigrant John Michael Kohler and a partner bought an iron foundry in Sheboygan. They made plows, farm implements, and industrial castings. Useful products, solid business, nothing that suggested the family would one day redesign the American bathroom. Then came the accident of history that built the title of this video. In 1883, the company covered a cast iron hog scalder and water trough in enamel, added feet, and sold it as a bathtub. A piece of farm equipment became indoor luxury. That one pivot pulled Kohler out of the barn and into the home. And once the family entered the bathroom, it never really left. Kohler expanded from tubs into sinks, toilets, faucets, showers, cabinetry, tile, lighting, and high-end wellness products. The company now generates an estimated $6 billion a year, and Forbes values the family at around $11.6 billion. But the most interesting product they built was not a bathtub. It was a place. After the company moved its foundry west of Sheboygan, founder's son Walter J. Kohler developed the surrounding settlement as a planned garden industrial community. In 1912, it was incorporated as the village of Kohler. The family brought in the Olmsted brothers, successors to the firm behind Central Park's landscape design, to create a long-term master plan. The family does not literally own the municipal government. Kohler has its own elected board. But the company developed the community around its factory, and its fingerprints remain everywhere. Then there is the American Club. It opened in 1918 as housing for immigrant mail workers, giving them comfortable rooms and helping them adjust to life in the United States. Decades later, third-generation leader Herb Kohler looked at that workers' residence and decided it should become a luxury hotel. The board reportedly rejected the idea more than once. Turning worker housing into a five-star resort sounded absurd, until the American Club reopened as a hotel in 1981 and became one of the Midwest's most celebrated resorts. Herb was not finished. He pushed Kohler into championship golf, building Black Wolf Run and Whistling Straits on Wisconsin land. Whistling Straits hosted the PGA Championship 3 times and the Ryder Cup in 2021. Black Wolf Run hosted the U.S. Women's Open twice. The same family that sells toilets also offers 5-star hospitality and courses where the world's best golfers chase major trophies. That is one family's taste spreading across plumbing, architecture, tourism, and sport. The dynasty is now in its 4th generation of leadership. David Kohler, the founder's great-grandson, serves as chair and CEO. His sisters Laura and Rachel sit on the board. And after more than 150 years, the company is still privately held. That matters because few family businesses survive 4 generations. By then, ownership can resemble a reunion where everyone has a lawyer and nobody agrees on lunch. Somehow, the Kohlers kept the company name and control intact. So no, the Kohlers are not the richest Wisconsin family by the raw number. The Johnson fortune is much larger. But nobody on this list has built a more complete private universe. They began with plows. They converted a hog trough into a bathtub. They developed a village around the factory, transformed worker housing into a luxury resort, and turned Wisconsin farmland into major championship golf. And after all of that, the most personal part of the empire is still sitting a few feet from you every morning. The Kohlers did not just build a company in Wisconsin. They built the room where America starts its day. And with that note, we wrap up this journey through the 8 richest and most powerful families that own Wisconsin. Did you notice the pattern here? None of them got rich from some flashy app. They built trucks, furniture, boxes, hardware stores, roofs, cleaning products, milk, donuts, and toilets. In other words, the fortunes hiding closest to ordinary life are often the easiest ones to miss. So which empire surprised you most? The gas station family secretly operating its own dairy and bakery, the trucking dynasty that controls 94% of a public company's vote, the Johnsons turning floor wax into $39 billion, or the Kohlers building an entire world around the American bathroom? Drop your pick in the comments, hit the like button if any of these stories caught you off guard, and subscribe to Global Status, because we break down the families, fortunes, and quiet power structures hiding in plain sight every single week.